Hey everyone, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Well, folks, today we're going to look at an animated movie that I've been wanting to look at ever since 2016, aka the year of animal films. But first, let's talk about the main character of today's episode, Robinson Crusoe. For those who don't know, Robinson Crusoe is the title character of a 1719 novel of the same name by Daniel Defoe about a castaway who spends 28 years on a remote tropical island near the coast of Venezuela and Trinidad, encountering cannibals, captives, and mutineers before ultimately being rescued. The story has been thought to be based on the life of Alexander Selkirk, a Scottish castaway who lived for 4 years on a Pacific island called Mas a Tierra, now part of Chile, which was renamed to Robinson Crusoe Island in 1966. Now, despite its simple narrative style, Robinson Crusoe was well received in the literary world, and it's often credited as marketing the beginning of realistic fiction as a literary genre. It is generally seen as a contender for the first English novel. Now, to this day, even as a kid, I haven't really gotten around to reading this classical novel yet, but I have been hearing about it a lot. The very first time I heard about Robinson Crusoe was during the cold-blooded penguin segment in The Three Caballeros, and sadly, I haven't really found or watched any film adaptations of the book that interested me. But is this animated adaptation from 2016 worth checking out? Well, let's take a look. Released in the United States on September 9th, 2016, the movie is Robinson Crusoe, or as the marketers in the US call it, The Wildlife. Now, let's get started. Times are good for Mac the Parrot, Scrubby the Goat, Carmelo the Chameleon, and the rest of the wildlife that inhabit a tropical island. Their day-to-day routine gets shaken up when a mysterious creature washes up on the shore. He's a sailor named Robinson Crusoe, and he's the only human survivor of a terrible storm that destroyed his ship. As the animals get to know their peculiar new guest, they find him to be a very useful ally when two conniving cats try to seize control of their exotic paradise. So, what are my thoughts on this movie? Well, in my opinion, this movie was okay. Sure, it's not one of the best animated films from 2016, but it's way better than what Sony gave us that year. Stupid birds. But now, let's move on to Mustang notes. The film was animated by nWave Pictures, whom I talked about in my blog of the Son of Bigfoot, and they're also responsible for giving us pretty good films like Thunder in the House of Magic, silly movies like Fly Me to the Moon, and terrible films like The Queen's Corgi. Now, what are my thoughts on the animation? Well, to me, I think nWave's style of animation is pretty promising. Even though the character designs are a bit cartoony, the animation on the island is decent. Also, I think some of the comedy is pretty charming, even though sometimes it can be a tad immature at times. As for the story, it was okay. It sometimes feels a tad cliched and slow at times, plus, due to the animals being the main focus, it kind of makes me think of a movie called The Star, which was released a year after this movie. Also, there are a couple intense moments, like a rainstorm, and when a couple things catch fire, like a shipwreck and a treehouse. And that's basically all I got from Mustang notes, so let's move on to the characters and the voice actors. Now, I'll only be talking about characters who are interesting. To me, that is. Let's start with Robinson Crusoe, voiced by Yuri Lowenthal, whom folks might know as a teenage Ben Tennyson from Ben 10. And he's the current voice of Prince Derek in the CGI Swan Princess movies. Bash me if you want, I do not care. Now, in my opinion, Crusoe in CGI is an adventurous character, and I kind of like the friendship that he shares with the animals while trying to survive on the island. Next we come to Mac, aka Tuesday, a red parrot voiced by veteran voice actor James Arnold Taylor, whom I know as Tidus from Final Fantasy X, Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars The Clone Wars, Leonardo from TMNT, and Buffalo Bob from Animal Crackers. Now, Max serves as the movie's narrator, and in my opinion, I think he seems like the kind of character who wants to venture out into the world. Plus, I like that Mac is interested in Crusoe, and I like the part where Mac and the other animals help him build a treehouse, and I found it pretty funny when Mac mimics another person's voice, since he is a parrot and all. Finally, we come to Kiki, a kingfisher bird voiced by Maeve Harrington, who voiced Shelley in The Son of Bigfoot. Now, I find Kiki to be a real no-nonsense kind of character who doesn't seem to trust anyone who gets washed up on the island. However, I thought Kiki was very easily manipulated by the villainous cats. Other voice actors in the film include Joey Kamen, Lila Berzins, Colin Metzger, Sandy Fox, Doug Stone, Joe Ochman, Kyle Hebert, Michael Sorich, Jeff Doschet, Debbie Tinsley, Robin Atkin Downs, Kirk Thornton, and Carlos Alazraqui. And now let's move on to my final words. Overall, The Wildlife is a film that I don't really consider as a quote-unquote good movie. While it suffers from a kind of predictable and slow story, the animation is mostly good, while some of the character designs are kind of cartoony. The comedy was pretty good and quite charming, but sometimes a bit way too silly. Plus, the characters are okay, while the voice acting is pretty good, especially with Yuri Lowenthal and James Arnold Taylor. Also, I think this is a movie that mainly younger audiences might mostly like. And for my rating, I'll give this movie a 56% out of 100. It's not bad, it's not really great either, but somewhere in between, I guess. And trust me, it's way better than the Angry Birds movie or Norm of the North, trust me. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me for my next episode, where we join 3 kingdoms for a very special picnic. Mustang Power.